9 years ago this week, on June 12th, 2005, I mentioned at the beginning here that this week's history segment included two of my favorite all-time WWE pay-per-view shows. King of the Ring 93 was one of them. This was the other one. It was the first ever ECW one-night stand pay-per-view at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City. My biggest regret living here in New York City was that I didn't go to this show, because and Webmaster Mike went to this show, and I curse him for doing so because I'm so jealous. It just seems like that would have been one of the most fun experiences to be part of, was being in the building for that show that night. I love the show, and I was never a big ECW fan when ECW was around. I was aware of it, I would check it out, but it wasn't my thing. So I was never a big ECW fan. Yeah, I became a bigger fan of it later on with the Rise and Fall DVD, and when I got to watch some of the great matches that were there. But even to this day, I would never consider myself like a big ECW fan, like some people are. And yet, I watched this show, which had the ECW fingerprints all over it. Paul Heyman clearly was running the show that night. All the old ECW faces were there, and the music, and the Sandman doing his thing, and everything else. And I at least was aware of who everybody was, and I enjoyed the hell out of this show. I had more fun watching this show, pure fun, than probably any pay-per-view that they've ever put on before. And technically, it was a WWE show, but it was an ECW event. So, whatever they did here, they needed to incorporate elements of this into their other shows, and it's too bad they never did. And it's too bad they got scared out of doing more shows from the Hammerstein after that one ECW TV taping where Batista and Big Show got booed out of the building and people were chanting "change the channel" and stuff, and they got so scared that they never went back. And I think that's a big mistake, because it's just a really fun atmosphere. And you want to have fun when you watch wrestling. This was a fun show. Rob Van Dam says that it was his idea. He pitched it to Vince and he ran with it. And that sucks for Rob because he was hurt. So he couldn't even wrestle on this show. He came out, his leg was in a brace, I think. He had just had knee surgery. He did some little angle. He was out there with Bill Alfonso, but he couldn't actually wrestle. But they had some great matches on this show. It opened with a Lance Storm Chris Jericho match that was really good. I remember there being a Chris Benoit, I think the Chris Benoit Eddie Guerrero match was on this show. I guess it would have had to have been because Eddie died a few months later. It was good, but I remember being somewhat disappointed. Those guys were past their prime at that point. Both were so beat up. Eddie was so beat up. And as we would find out later on, always in just constant pain. And they couldn't quite do what they used to, but they did their best. I think what stole the show, quite frankly, was the Mike Awesome Masato Tanaka match. Those guys beat the piss out of each other. Chair shots to the head. I mean, if I go back and watch that match now, which I did recently, it's very uncomfortable to watch. All the shots to the head, unprotected chair shot to the head, one after the other after the other. How Masato Tanaka is still performing, and performing at a high level over in Japan is mind-boggling to me, but he is. But it was really a breakout performance in a lot of ways for Mike Awesome. There was a lot of, bad memories about how Mike Awesome left ECW. Joey Styles buried him, just absolutely buried him, to go back to that word, on commentary. You want to see a burial job on commentary, you got to listen to Joey Styles here. And I don't know how much of that was in character or not. I think a lot of it was personal, and I don't know how Joey would feel about it now, given what ended up happening to Mike Awesome, because I think at one point on commentary he actually said that he wished he was dead. But the match was awesome as a spectacle, not so much as a wrestling match. These guys just beat the hell out of each other. They put each other through tables and chair shots, and I know Awesome blew his knee out at the end of the match. But he was the star of the show. Both these guys were. And the main event was the Dudleys against the Sandman and Tommy Dreamer. Sandman got to do his full entrance. He came out to Enter Sandman by Metallica. At least in the original version, they didn't dub it. It was awesome. It added so much to the show, seeing him do his thing to the original music. They had a match that ended with a flaming table spot, putting Dreamer through the table. Match was over. Steve Austin came out. The theme of the show was there were a group of WWE invaders led by Eric Bischoff that were up in one of the balconies. So Edge was there, and a lot of the jobbers, but like low-level guys, Maven and Rob